Hey everybody, it's Kris Kondrad, here with another fun-filled episode of Kris Kondrad's Movie Review Show. Today I'll be reviewing Martin Scorsese's new epic 3-hour film, The Wolf of Wall Street. If you're watching a movie review show on YouTube, I'm sure you know who Martin Scorsese is. He's my favorite living filmmaker. He's, to me, the last of the greats. He's made such amazing American films as Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, Mean Streets, Casino, Goodfellas, King of Comedy. Some of the greatest films of the last 40 years. However, this time, he has failed. This time, he's made a big old steaming pile of dog shit. I hated this fucking movie. I fucking hated every goddamn minute of it. And I hated it all the more because it was helmed by this cinematic giant, Martin Scorsese. God, I hated this movie. Obviously, I didn't like this film. It's also written by Terrence Winter, the guy who created Boardwalk Empire, wrote a lot of great episodes of that, great episodes of Sopranos. What went wrong? Two cinematic giants and one steaming pile of shit of a movie. I'll tell you what went wrong, the story itself. It's based on the true story of Jordan Belfort, who wrote a book back in the 80s about this story. I can't imagine reading this book. I mean, Chapter 1, I woke up, did some cocaine, and got a blowjob. Chapter 2, I did some more coke and got another blowjob. Chapter 3, blowjobs and cocaine. Chapter 4, more blowjobs, more coke. I mean, it's all that happens. I remember when I heard this movie was 3 hours long. I'm like, wow, 3 hours. I wonder what Marty's going to fill the frames with. What epic tale will he tell? It's just 3 hours of fucking guys getting blowjobs and doing cocaine. Seriously. I'm going to tell you this. If you have a cocaine problem, do not see this movie. If you're trying to quit, especially, because you're going to have a fucking relapse. And if you're not trying to quit, then make sure to bring your fucking vial, your bullet, what you loaded up to the theater, because you're going to be in the theater like... Seriously, it's like going to see the movie Lost Weekend when you're trying to quit drinking. It's just, you're fucked. It's just, it made me want to do cocaine. I don't even like cocaine. Leo DiCaprio, you know, he's the lead. He plays Jordan Belfort. He's being praised as one of his best performances. Really? I mean, basically he's playing himself as far as I can see. I mean, just snorting coke and getting blowjobs all day. I assume that's what Leo DiCaprio does with his time. That's what I would do if I was Leo DiCaprio. Best performance? I think his best performance is The Aviator, another Scorsese film, and that's the movie that won me over for him. I'm like, wow, this kid can act. I thought he was okay, and that movie blew me away, his performance. A much better film about a much more interesting person. The main problem with this movie is the story itself. Again, it's just 3 hours of cocaine and blowjobs. And I have no problem with drugs and blowjobs. I'm a big fan, actually. I do plenty of drugs myself. A few scenes would have been fun. 3 hours becomes tedious, relentless, and fucking boring. It just gets fucking old. I mean, it's a rags to riches story, I guess, but there's no rags. Pauline Kael, a critic who passed a few years ago, one of the greatest critics of our, well, ever, I remember her review for Brian De Palma's Scarface, and she said that the problem with that movie is it's a rags to riches story, and we don't spend enough time in the rags. You got to appreciate the main characters struggling from poverty, so you can give a shit when they're, you know, in the money. And this movie spends no time in poverty. It opens up on DiCaprio doing a line off some broad's ass, and then giving a tour of the yacht and talking to the camera, which I always hate that fucking style of filmmaking, talking to the camera, because it takes me out of the film, and it makes me realize I'm just watching some actor, whatever. It can work, and Scorsese himself has made it work, but not this time out. We get about 5 minutes. There's a scene where we go back in time where the stock market, Black Monday, whatever, the bottom falls out, and DiCaprio's forced to get a job doing something else because nobody's hiring stockbrokers, and he's looking at the want ads with his mousy brunette wife, and he goes, I guess I'll get a job as a stock boy. And she goes, stock boy? You're no stock boy, you're a stockbroker, baby. Here's a stockbroker job for hire. And he goes, oh, where? And then he goes to this strip mall where they're hiring, and they're selling penny stocks, and he, you know, 5 minutes later, he makes a $4,000 sale, and everybody's just ready to get on their knees and suck his dick, because everybody in this movie wants to blow DiCaprio, and most everybody in the movie does. Then he hooks up with Jonah Hill, some socially inept weirdo who happens to live in his neighborhood, and stalks him in a coffee shop and says, hey, I live in your neighborhood, and you make a lot of money, you got a nice car. And he's like, oh, here's my paycheck. And he goes, I'm going to quit my job. And then he quits his job, and they go into business together, and 5 minutes later, they're billionaires. And there's even one scene where, you know, DiCaprio's talking to the camera, and he's starting to explain the whole process, and he goes, you don't give a fuck, money, coke, and throws some money in the air. And I'm like, no, I do give a shit. I mean, why am I watching this movie otherwise? I know how to snort cocaine and get blowjobs. I mean, yeah, I'm more intrigued by, is there any story to this story? I mean, Wall Street, it reminds me, it's like Wall Street meets Blow meets any random episode of Entourage. But at least Wall Street had a story. It had espionage and intrigue and a villain who was, you know, engaging and almost admirable, and twists and turns. And this thing's just, I mean, he doesn't even kill anybody. I mean, you know, I'm sure you can find some coke-snorting stockbroker from the 80s who kills someone. I mean, you know, I watch this Dateline, NBC, whatever these shows. There's a billion true-life crime stories happening every day. I don't know why this story... I don't know why Scorsese, in all his glory, felt the need to tell us this fucking story. Like he's peeling back the covers on some... taking us into the inner workings of an 80s stockbroker. Can you believe it? They, you know... It's like it's a true story, you know, like truth is stranger than fiction. That's what they say. So it's a true story about some 80s, you know, douchebag who made millions in the stock market and spent all his time and money, you know, snorting cocaine and getting blowjobs. Really? No way. This couldn't have really happened. I guess so. It's a true story. No way. Mind-blowing. Wow, you blew my mind with this one, Marty. Just... And Jonah Hill, he's getting praised as he's amazing in it. Really? He's fucking horrible. I wanted to fucking strangle him. He's like this buck-toothed, bug-eyed cartoon character. I just wanted to fucking knock him over the head with a fucking hammer and watch him die. God, he was good in Moneyball. He proved he could act in that. Here, he's just a caricature of a cartoon character of a comic book fucking cartoon. He's not a real person. Matthew McConaughey, he's great in it. I used to think this guy sucked, and then I saw the movie Killer Joe. If you haven't seen this movie, check it out. It's awesome, and he's awesome in it. Won me over with that performance. Here he's great. He has one scene. He plays a, you know, blowjob receiving, coke snorting, yuppie douchebag as well, but he plays it with aplomb. He plays it with comedic chops. I found him funny, and then he disappeared, and I'm like, what happened to the one good character? Where'd he go? Another thing, I remember thinking, why is this movie 3 hours long? I wonder what will transpire in 3 hours. Again, just coke snorting and blowjobs. And the reason it's 3 hours long is every scene is at least twice as long as it needs to be. Even the few scenes that start off, they're like, oh, here's a good scene finally. Like there's a scene where DiCaprio and fucking Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill, whatever the fuck, they do some old Quaaludes and they end up taking too many because they're creeper Quaaludes. They don't hit them right away, and then they set in and DiCaprio's got to get to a payphone to his car, and it's a funny scene. I enjoyed it, but then it went on too long, and that was like, it undermines itself, and it's just so much wrong with this movie. Margot Robbie, she's the best part of the film, actually. She's a revelation. She's just fucking gorgeous, man. Blonde, blue-eyed, not even my flavor. I'm a brunette guy myself, but I would cut off a couple fingers just to fuck this broad. Not my own, but somebody's. She's just, oh, she's amazing. Phenomenal. She should get an Academy Award or a Golden Globe. And she's not above getting naked. Believe me, she gets naked plenty, so kudos for her. She really does deserve an award for this film. Her acting's just okay. Well, actually, I thought it was just okay. And then I looked it up on the IMDb, and it turns out she's from Australia, people. She's Australian. And there's not even a trace of an Australian accent. Sounds just like some American bimbo. So kudos to you, girl. You kept my ass in the seat. Otherwise, I was out of there. The soundtrack is basically Devo's first album, which Scorsese already played out in Casino. You know, I get it, Marty. You love Devo's first album. I love Devo's first album. You keep putting it in every fucking movie, and I'm going to be over it. Don't burn it out for me. A lot of Bo Diddley, too. Did Scorsese just discover Bo Diddley? I mean, the guy invented rock and roll back in, you know, the late 50s, early 60s in Chicago. People say Chuck Berry. I like to stick with my homeboy. Bo Diddley, I love Chuck Berry, too. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I can't believe I'm even complaining about music. I love Devo's first album, Uncontrollable Urge. I love the song he kept playing over and over and over. And I love Bo Diddley, but it's just like he overdid it. I mean, play some other shit. Mix it up, Scorsese. I know you got good taste in music. Let's hear some other shit. It just, I could go on, and I am going on. In this review, I wanted to be shorter than the last one, and here it is just as long. So I'm going to cut it short here, or cut it long, and warn you, please don't see this movie, or see it. If you know, if I want to see 3 hours of somebody getting blowjobs and doing cocaine, I'll go hang out in the bathroom of my local nightclub. I mean, seriously, and save the $12.50. Well, I'm sure I'll have to pay to get in, but whatever. Anyhow, I hate this fucking movie. Hopefully, my next review will be more positive. But I'll probably have to review a classic because they're not making many good movies lately. And now, Martin Scorsese, come on, baby. Don't make this your swan song. Don't up and die from all the coke I assume you're doing. He used to do coke, and I have a feeling he's back on the coke. Anyway, so that's my review. I hope you all enjoyed it. Sorry if it's a little long, but, I mean, the movie's 3 hours. So if you watch this and you haven't seen it yet, you know, put 10 minutes of your time in and save yourself fucking 3 hours. And $15. All right, anyway, until next time, I'll see you at Kris Konrad's Movie Review Show.